Yeah, just a follow up. I'd done a video before on how I had a stroke, really suffered, was in a complete wreck, and a weak excuse for a human being. I ended up in a hospital bed, and now I recovered, and um, how fasting came about because I couldn't eat. But then I forced my way to go home after 10 days. It was not a very nice experience being in hospital, when you see other people deteriorating and other people get a blanket or sheet pulled over their head and disappear. Um, anyway, when I came home after 10 days, I didn't eat for 3 days and everything else because I was a wreck. But I'd worked super hard on gaining my mobility. So I used to stagger and shuffle and whatever up and down the passage, and I had to hang on to the walls. And I used to spend a lot of time having a cold shower with a high pressured water, thinking that that was like stimulating my feelings and nerves and everything had to reconnect. But I did work super hard on exercise as well as I made sure I covered all the bases that I could with all my vitamins and minerals and amino acids and everything that I could. So I had limited eating time, but I made sure that my food was a lot better quality than I had been eating. And then once I had, worked on me exercising, and then I could walk within reason, because originally you'd go to stand up, and then you'd have to wait, and then you'd have to shuffle along and half drag your left hand side, and eventually everything came good to a degree that I was reasonably mobile. And at this stage, my vision had came back. So then I used to spend a lot of time then just walking around my backyard without my shoes on, trying to get the stimulation and the feeling and the nerves working in my left leg. And then once they come back, then I spend a lot of time going down to a beach area where there's a lot of big boulders in the port area, and then I would spend a lot of time walking on them. Actually, I'd done it every day for weeks, walking along them, and I did have a mishap where I fell down a couple of times, and then after I'd done that for quite a bit, then I done it without my shoes on because I needed to get that feeling and the nerves working through my left side. And when I sat down at night in front of the TV or the idiot box or whatever you want to call it, I spent a lot of time stretching and flexing and trying to make the feelings in my hand and my thing. So I had a hand grip, and I would exercise my hand, and my son got it for me and do all my fingers, and nothing came easy. So you only get out of it what you put in it. That's what I was just wanted to say, that I wasn't just there's no magical pill out there that I could see. And then I'd done a lot of reading. Once my eyes improved because when I was in hospital, my vision was terrible. I had a blurred double vision. Sometimes I'd see somebody trying to talk to me and I could see their mouth, 2 or 3 times, and I just couldn't comprehend what they were saying. But once everything came back, and then I could spend a bit of time reading, but I couldn't read for very long because it did upset my eyes and that. But eventually, I spent more and more time and worked out what food was working for me, and I worked out what exercise was working for me, and eventually I could get on the walker, even though I had to hang on, and I could spend hours walking on the walker, and but I couldn't do that originally because when I came out of hospital, I still ended up with a catheter in, and then I just couldn't bring myself to go back to hospital. I mean, COVID was full blown, and there was a lot of problems, and I didn't want to have to see the medical staff and tell lies that I wasn't taking any medication, because I didn't take anything. It was probably, looked upon as completely stupid. But that's how I felt, because my stomach was in such a mess that I couldn't handle anything, and I just had got my whole system, my stomach, my bowel, everything was starting to work quite reasonable, and I ended up taking the catheter out myself. It's only a matter of, I had to get my wife to get me a syringe, and you can draw the fluid out that's holding it in place, and then I got rid of it, and I virtually started doing everything myself, but nothing actually came easy. I guess everything there is, you get out of it what you put into it. But on the other hand, I had an amazing support from my family, which, a lot of people maybe not as fortunate, but I think that is probably a real key issue, because when I was in hospital the whole time, whenever I opened my eyes, was either my son or my wife that was there. So, I think I owe them a lot. But, in my head, I'm pretty pig-headed or strong-minded, whatever you want to say. And once I get something in my mind, I won't let it go. So I would spend hours and hours, even though I had little rest when I was in hospital, standing up all day, all night. And the first night I was doing, one of the male nurses, he came, this was about 2 a.m. He actually spent a bit of time and talked to me and said, that he thought that I was doing an excellent process by putting my body to some sort of work, or, some sort of exercise, even though it was pretty weak sort of exercise. I was just standing up, trying to get some sort of balance that I could stand, and eventually I could stagger along. But anyway, that's just sort of my bit of a story. And I always reassess everything that I'm doing. So I reassess what I'm eating, I reassess my food, I reassess my exercise. So I'm just starting on weights. I've decided that I'm going to cut out all sugars. So regarding fruits, not that I took any refined food, but bananas, I do like bananas, and I was eating a lot of dates, and now I've decided that I'm going to cut them out completely. I'm only going to eat veggies, meat, fish, seaweed. But you have to sort out what works good for you. And they're the sort of things that I feel work good for me. Avocados, I think, are amazing food. The same as, meat. And I like a bit of fat, and I like full fat dairy products. Anyway, just a bit of food for thought, because there's so much stuff out there. You need to take in what you can and analyse and work out what works good for you, what doesn't. I'm pretty blessed that I recovered. And the other fellow who I grew up with, it didn't work out good for him, and he followed everything to the T, where I didn't. And then there was another guy who was in hospital, was similar to me, but he'd been in a week earlier, and he was just a wretch, still hadn't improved one bit, just laying on the bed, couldn't walk, talk, and they were just spoon feeding him, where I never got spoon fed because I couldn't eat. I just got a tube down my nose, in my stomach, and they squirted a bit of some sort of mush in there, and that was for like the first week. Anyway, have a good day, and all the best with whatever you're thinking about or working on. Bye.